Hello, hello. Take two. We had a lot of people commenting that they either couldn't hear, couldn't see, or both. So we are starting again. So please type in, I can see you, I can hear you, both, and then we'll get started with
and push a like.
Okay, and push a share, but first let us know that you can see us and hear us. Good?
Yep, we're good.
All right, hopefully.
We got a hello.
All right, but you can, hello, but
I can hear you, I can see you from
perfect.
Robin Carter.
Thank you, that's what we want to know. So here we go. So welcome to Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, and this is episode 28. This is where I answer your questions about healthy, permanent, and sustainable weight loss. I'm the creator of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, which has helped thousands of people gain both the health and the body they so richly deserve, and hopefully we can help you too. So I'm going to be at True North Health Center in Santa Rosa May 13th and 14th speaking, and at Vegan Toastmasters on Sunday, May 21st. Kenny will be there. It's absolutely free. Come meet both of us, but you do need to RSVP.
RSVP to veganvet@gmail.com.
That's our Mighty May. If you live locally, she's an outstanding vegan veterinarian. All right. Oh, that's my rice cooker. See, it's getting close to dinner time. Any questions before we get started with the list that I have here?
We are just saying they love your tank top, so tell us about the tank top.
Thank you so much for reminding me. So this tank top was a gift from none other than vegan bodybuilder extraordinaire Robert Cheek and his fiancée Karen Oxley. Got it at the LA Veg Fest on Sunday. It says no meat, no problem, and you can get shirts like this and others at veganbodybuilding.com. And if you are in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, you get a 20% discount on everything in their store, and I'll post that link on our private group page.
But you have to lift those dumbbells that's on the shirt.
Yeah, I love it. It's so comfortable. It's really good material, adjustable straps, and I have a lot of their products. They're wonderful. Thanks for saying that, Kenny, because I wanted to talk about it.
It's not me, it's our friends online.
All right, I appreciate that. So a question came up last week on how to keep potato waffles crisp, and I said I really didn't know. You had to kind of eat them one at a time. But what happened is I did a Facebook Live for Engine 2 last Friday. You can still find that broadcast on their page. And after I was done making them, I didn't have time to eat them, and I unplugged the waffle iron, and they stayed crisp all day. Now, they weren't hot, but they did stay crisp. And so what I did is I put them in the air fryer to see if that would make them hot and crisp. And it did work, but I'll be honest, things like that really taste better when you eat them right away. But, you know,
fresh.
Yeah, it's not one of those foods that you can really serve a lot of people. It's more like a single-use kind of thing. So Paige said she tried the hibiscus tea that I showed in the webinar. And by the way, the webinars are free, but some of them have a small fee. And we just did a wonderful free one Sunday night with Dr. Gustavo Tolosa. I can't remember what it was called, but we did amazing recipes like Mexican lasagna, completely free. You can find it on YouTube right now. But we have a paid one coming up for a very small fee, and if you register by 9 p.m. tonight, you get 25% off. And at the page you are watching this on, if you go to the pinned post, you'll see that we're going to make amazing recipes, including 2 recipes that were Iron Chef winners: the McDougall Goldhammer Cauliflower Risotto Sweet Potato Stack and the Sweet Potato Mousse with Caramelized Apples. All these recipes are compliant with the UWL program, with the McDougall program for maximum weight loss, and for the True North health promoting diet, and they're delicious even for regular people when you have company. So I had showed how to make hibiscus tea in that episode, and she said that she tried it and it was so sour. And can she use whole stevia leaf to sweeten it? Well, it is sour, so that's the idea. And if it's too sour for you, there's a couple of things you can do. First of all, don't steep it as long, because you have complete control as to how long you leave either the tea bag in there or the berries. Now, I do think that when you use the whole flowers, I think it's flowers, not berry, it is going to be more sour than when you use a tea bag. Now, there's a wide variety of hibiscus teas, and they all taste different. I recommended last week to use one that wasn't sweetened, even with stevia in it, because some of them do have it. But they have some raspberry hibiscus teas. They have all different kinds, and some are more sour and some are less sour. So I would experiment with the different brands, and I would experiment with how long you steep it, because they are going to taste different. Also, you know, as your taste buds neuro-adapt to a diet of whole natural food, you might come to appreciate this sour flavor more. And if you don't, I still don't recommend using whole leaf stevia to sweeten it. I would recommend using fruit. You can buy something called an infuser at Costco or Bed Bath & Beyond. It's like a water bottle, but the bottom comes off, and you can actually put fruit or herbs like mint or and basil, whatever in it, and put some raspberries or put some pineapple. But I would use not stevia, I would use not dates, I would just use whole fruit, and that's how I would sweeten the tea if I had to sweeten it. Also remember that, hibiscus tea is very good for lowering blood pressure, inflammation, but it is very acidic, and they say that it can sometimes erode the dental enamel. So it's recommended that when you drink hibiscus tea, you drink it with a straw instead of any other way, and that you always rinse your mouth out afterwards. All right? So we're still good, Kenny, because I noticed you're checking on your phone. Any questions?
We have someone who says, do you take any supplements?
The only supplement I take is vitamin B12 because I've been vegan for almost 40 years. And believe it or not, there's an equal incidence of B12 deficiency even in people that aren't vegan. So B12 is a microorganism that is in the dirt. And the cows get it from eating grass, eating the dirt, hopefully, if they're grass-fed. It's not something you get from meat. You get it indirectly from meat because the cows ate it. There are foods that are high in B12 or foods that are fortified with B12 like non-dairy milks and a nutritional yeast, but it's recommended that if you've been following a plant-based diet that you take it. And so yes, that's the only supplement I take. All right. So this is a question from Anonymous. It says, hello. I really enjoy Weight Loss Wednesdays and was hoping you could answer my question next week. I am. It's how many fruit do you suggest eating a day for weight loss and why? And so this book is a great book, and it's completely in line with the principles we teach in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program. This is the McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss. It is my favorite of all his books, and I'm just going to read to you what he says about fruit. This is from page 20.
Is this the poem?
No, this isn't a poem. I said to Kenny I might read a poem today because there was one of the questions that I felt could use a poem that I did not write. So he says on page 64, restrict fresh fruit to no more than 2 servings a day and avoid dried fruit, fruit puree, and fruit juice. Complete agreement. He says that fruits are relatively low in calories, and that's true because they're about 200 calories per pound on average. Some are as high as 300 calories a pound. And the savory fruits, meaning the things that we consider non-starchy vegetables but are botanically fruits like zucchini, bell pepper, okra, eggplant, cucumber, and tomato. These are about 67 calories per pound, but they're technically fruits. And of course, there are some fruits that are higher in calories, like plantains, which are a starchy fruit, or avocados, which are a fatty fruit. But most fruits do average about 200 calories per pound. He says the problem with fruit is that it's so tasty, you could eat 20 pieces a day, and in the process consume an extra 1,000 to 2,000 calories, which will, of course, slow weight loss. Fruit sugar causes significant increase in blood fats, triglycerides, in some people. These fats are the very ones stored in fat tissues. Fruit also stimulates insulin production, which stuffs these fat into fat cells. So that's what Dr. McDougall says about it. And I would agree that for most people, that is probably best, 1 to 2 pieces of fruit a day. The thing is I find that if somebody is a sugar addict, like I was for 43 years, often we will turn to fruit, especially the more calorically dense fruits like dates, which are actually dried fruit, or the ones that have less water in them like bananas, to try to get that hit. And we see so many people in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program that literally will eat like 5 bananas in a city. Is that not in a city, but in a sitting? Is that the worst thing in the world? No, if that's going to save them from eating an entire Cheesecake Factory cheesecake, it's probably a good thing. But the problem is like Dr. McDougall says, fruit is so incredibly tasty, especially when you stop eating sugar, that it really, really is very easy to overeat on. Plus, it just doesn't have the satiety that the starches do. You know, fruit, like vegetables, is mostly water. I believe it's 90 to 95% water. And so it does pass through your digestive tract very quickly, and it just doesn't have that stick-to-itiveness or satiety like things like beans or rice or sweet potatoes. And so I think it's a pretty good rule of thumb, 1 or 2 pieces a day. Dr. Goldhammer says about a pound a day. And believe it or not, if you were to weigh 2 pieces of fruit, and I've done that just to see, 2 apples or 2 bananas or an apple or a banana, it does weigh about a pound. And so I find that tends to work best for people. Now, I don't think you should have any limit on the savory fruits. So the 6 that I mentioned that are 67 calories a pound, eat those ad libitum. Eat those as much as you want. Those are very satisfying. They're still full of color and micronutrients, but they don't have the, you don't see...
Sugar?
Oh, sugar. No, I was going to say the propensity to overeat on them as much. I know,
what are those 7 again, or 6?
There's 6. So there's eggplant, okra, tomato, zucchini, bell pepper, and cucumber. So these are things that we often think of as salad fruits or not, or just, you know, vegetables, but they're technically fruits because they have seeds, so botanically they are, but they're very, very high in water, low in calorie density, so eat all of those you want. But of the sweet fruits, I think, I hate to tell people to limit that, but how much fruit are you eating now, and are you getting the results you seek? You know, when somebody is 100 pounds overweight, they probably could get away with maybe eating more fruit unless it's affecting their triglycerides. But I find that the fruit is one of those things that I will eat in the absence of hunger. So in other words, you can have all the delicious vegetables in front of me, even the like Dijon glazed Brussels sprouts or the oven roasted ratatouille, and I will only eat a certain amount, and then I'll stop because I'm full, and I'll only eat it if I'm hungry. But man, you give me, you know, a piece of juicy watermelon or ripe banana, and I'll always be able to eat it. And I think that's because I was such a sugar addict who never ate fruit, and now fruit is just insanely and incredibly sweet for me. So do I avoid fruit? No, but I don't eat it by itself. I use it I put it in salad, I put it in greens. I never eat it on an empty stomach by itself. Or I maybe will have it at the end of the day as a sweet treat, maybe making some of the sorbet with the, you know, champion juicer, banana ice cream, so to speak. But I never eat it by itself because it's just too stimulating, and it just makes me want more and more. And yesterday, it's so funny because I went to Costco, as I always do on Tuesday, and I just didn't have enough of my food for after the 90-minute spin class, and so I bought an 18-ounce flat of blackberries, and they didn't even make it home. It's just, for me,
You ate the whole thing?
Yes,
Wait.
I did. It's
Whoa.
Just, I know. It's just, for me, it's just too easy to overeat on fruit. And again, you know, if that's your worst problem, that you're overeating on fruit, I'm not going to worry about it. But I do think for weight loss, it works best if you do what Dr. McDougall says.
Now I know everything's blue today.
Yeah, that's right, because I ate all those blackberries, and they were delicious. So I think the good doctor is right, 1 to 2 pieces a day, especially if you're trying to experience ultimate weight loss. And, you know, depending on where you are, you can maybe add a little bit more. But I know there's people that just eat fruit, fruitarians, and it works for them. But I think when people suffer from refined food addiction, they often transfer that sugar addiction to fruit, and they eat too much fruit. And I think instead, eat more vegetables and have fruit be the sweet treat, have it be the accent in the greens, in the salad, you know, combining it with starch. Make my blueberry or pineapple or cherry millet muffins or game-changing granola. So fruit is great as your sweetener, but I don't recommend it necessarily for ad libitum eating. And, you know, and back to sweetener, you know, what I wanted to say to Paige's questions about can you use whole leaf stevia to sweeten it, you know, I guess that using the leaf of stevia is better than using the processed stevia, the liquids and the powders, which go through the same refining process in drugs and alcohol. But the whole concept, Paige, that I want to articulate to people is that if you need to sweeten what you're eating or drinking, then my feeling is that either A, you don't really like what you're eating or drinking, or B, it's probably something you really shouldn't be eating or drinking. And so these people that say, well, I love coffee, but then have to put in, you know, a ton of cow pus, milk, and a ton of sugar just to down it, they don't really love coffee. People that drink a black espresso, maybe they really do love coffee. So think about it, because if you really need to sweeten it, you probably don't like it that much. I mean, how many people here could honestly eat oats cooked in water with nothing else? Not too many. You gotta always add the maple syrup and the walnuts and, you know, a lot of fruit. Whereas rice, cook it with water, it's fine without anything. So think about what you're needing to sweeten, and if you really need it. Okay, anybody got any other questions?
Yeah, we have someone saying, you know, she just finished the Engine 2 diet, and she's feeling really lethargic and feels like her blood sugar is not right. Any thoughts to help her out?
Enough. You know, first of all, I'm not a doctor, but anytime you're feeling something in the medical realm, you should always go to your doctor, because you never know. But are you eating enough calories? Because if anything, most people say that eating this way gives them more energy. I mean, did you make any other changes? Because sometimes while people are changing their diet, they're also cutting out caffeine or things like that. So, you know.
Are you walking? Are you exercising?
You know, so there's lots of reasons, but are you eating enough calories? That's the other thing. What were you eating before? So, you know, sometimes when people get off sugar, for example, they may feel lethargic because they're detoxing. So most people, when they eat this way, they actually end up feeling less lethargic and more energetic. So I need to know a little bit more information on what you're eating now, what you were eating before. Are you getting enough sleep? there's lots of factors.
That's true. Someone else asks, tips for lowering the A1C levels.
Well, that's a marker for diabetes. And the tip is the diet that we all recommend. Please get Dr. Neil Barnard's book, Reversing Diabetes, because that's how you lower it, is by reversing it with a whole food plant-based diet that's free of oil. That book is a treasure trove of information. He also had a PBS special by the same name, so maybe that's still available on DVD somewhere, but that's what you have to do. And of course, exercise. When you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, it is the food, but it's also the lack of exercise. You need to get moving every day. Everybody does, whether they're diabetic or not, move their body every day. And that doesn't mean you have to go to a gym and do a 90-minute spin class like me. You have to at least go for a walk every day. That's a non-negotiable,
What's your thought on green tea?
Oh, actually, that's so funny because Helen has a question regarding caffeine and is green tea permitted? So my thought,
this is from Christy Cullen.
Well, how do you like that? Christy and Helen have the same question. So my thought is that it is definitely better than coffee because it has less caffeine. And there are some marginal benefits of caffeine, but in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, it's not just a weight loss program, it's a program to help you recover from all of your addictions. And caffeine is a drug. It's not a food, and it's an addiction. And when I've interviewed sleep doctors or other doctors, they really don't have a heck of a lot of good stuff to say about it. And you can find some benefits. People always want good news about their bad habits, as Dr. McDougall says. And so people say, well, I'm drinking wine for its, I can never say that, resveratrol. Well, you could also eat grapes for that. The thing is when most people drink caffeine, it's because they're addicted to it and because they need it, because they're sleep deprived, they don't go to bed on time, and you need to deal with the reason you need the caffeine instead of the caffeine. And so a lot of people say, well, I'm drinking it for the health benefits, when really they're drinking it because it's addictive, and to detox off caffeine is painful, and they probably will get a horrible headache for a few days unless they go to True North and fast. So I'm not a fan of any drugs, caffeine, alcohol. I'm all for straight edge, vegan living, drug-free life, and caffeine is a really horribly addictive drug. So yes, while there's marginal benefits, drink herbal tea instead. The question is, why do you need it? Why do you need it? If you're drinking it because you think you need something in it, I'm sure there's another way to get the compound, but I don't think caffeine is good in general, and I don't think it's good in particular for people that have any addictions, because it's highly addictive central nervous system stimulant. It impairs your sleep. It has a 17-hour half-life. And I don't know so much about green tea, but I know that I just heard Linda Carney speak, Dr. Carney from Austin, and she said that even decaffeinated coffee still has caffeine and all kinds of chemicals. So I don't recommend it. I think water's the best thing to drink. And then, of course, a little hibiscus tea and pot liquor for variety and interest. Anything before I go on to my 2 air fryer questions?
Air fryer questions.
We've got 2 air fryer questions. So
are we going to fry it up? Didn't we already fry or?
Well, today, when you get an air fryer, every day is Fry Day. Ha, ha, ha. I've been using it.
I love it.
So
well, then Sunday, of course, is Sunday.
So Susan wants to know what I've successfully cooked in the air fryer. So far, all she's done is potatoes, which turned out really well. So Susan, I've air fried everything that I will have eaten already. I mean, I haven't done anything interesting or new. But for example, last night, we had what we call the Mexican stuffed potato for dinner. We have it a couple times a week. It's just a staple in this house where you take a potato of your choice, either a sweet potato or a russet, doesn't matter, and you stuff it with stuff. So last night it happened to be corn and black beans. And so we'll eat this a couple times a week, and then we'll put on salsa, jalapeno if we want, cilantro. My husband puts guacamole on his, and it's a very satisfying, starch-based, delicious meal. And so I said to Charles last night, I said, I wonder what would happen if we put it in the air fryer instead of heating it up in the microwave. And it was delicious because it actually crisped up the potato and it roasted the corn. So anything that's good is probably better in the air fryer. What I've done with it is almost every vegetable recipe that I already do, such as oven roasted ratatouille, balsamic Dijon glazed Brussels sprouts, just throwing in vegetables, like just mushrooms, make them delicious. I'm not a big mushroom fan, but believe it or not, cooking them in the air fryer makes them juicy. Taking just cauliflower or broccoli florets, make them crispy. And even without seasoning, and you can always put on onion powder, garlic powder, Benson's Table Tasty nutritional yeast. You can make it as fancy as you want. I haven't done any fruit in the air fryer yet. You could take my recipe for Chipotle bean burgers, which you can get on my television show, Foodie TV, episode 6, the diner recipe, and you can cook those in there. You can roll it into little balls and make veggie meatballs. You can do that. I've seen people do pizzas. So I'm not an expert on air frying, guys, so please don't ask me what the best model is. I would say the best one you can afford, the largest one you can afford. But there are so many plant-based experts already out there on air frying. We've got J.L. Fields, whose book is coming out next month, and she has a free Facebook group called Vegan Air Frying Enthusiasts, which is a lot of information. Susan Voisin of the Fat Free Vegan has a group called Vegan Air Frying.
Sheila says mushrooms in the air fryer are amazing.
Oh,
pineapple in the air fryer is really good.
Yep. And Kathy Hester, I don't know if she has a Facebook group specific to air frying, but she's really into the air frying. A lot of people are saying the Breville is the best, but it's not really an air fryer. It's more of a convection oven, and it's really big. But I like my air fryer because it's portable. And anything you can do in the oven, you can do in the air fryer faster without heating up the whole house. I mean, it's hot here today. We got the air on, so the air fryer is great for that.
How long and what temperature?
Okay, so here's the thing. Again, I'm the worst person to ask. I've never read a manual in my life. Like even the Instant Pot, I only use one button. I do everything at 400 for 20 minutes. If it's not done, I add time. If it's burned, oh well, I still eat it. I don't have time to read that. So that's why you guys got to get into one of these 3 Facebook groups and ask the true experts on air frying, because I just got it for my birthday, and so I'm still learning, but I love it so far. And the next question is also about the air fryer, and it's from Erin. And this one actually pertains to weight loss. So she says, how does air frying increase the caloric density of foods like veggies, potatoes, and chickpeas? How does it compare to dehydrating in terms of increasing caloric density? So I don't know exactly, meaning I don't know the difference in caloric density between foods done in an air fryer and foods done in a dehydrator. But I will tell you that the air fryer and the oven, there's really no difference. It basically is a small oven. It's just this heating element, and it just cooks, just like your oven. It just roasts, but it seems to do it in less time because it's a smaller unit, whereas your oven is really big, and it's portable, and it just doesn't generate as much heat. I believe it's 1,700 watts.
So you're cooking it for less time at high heat and...
Right, well, but if you're roasting vegetables in your oven, like Erin, if I roast potatoes or vegetables in my oven, I'm always doing it at least 400, sometimes even 450. The air fryer doesn't go higher than 400. But here's the thing, anytime you cook food, you are increasing the caloric density slightly because you are removing the water. But if it's healthy food, does it matter? So for example, vegetables are about 100 calories per pound raw. When you cook them, they could get as high as 200 calories a pound because we've cooked out the water. But if it's vegetables, that is sort of a negligible difference. And believe it or not, with potatoes, the caloric density of cooked versus raw is very, very close. Things like grains and legumes, we have to cook them in water anyway, so they're already absorbing water. So when we air fry them or roast them or dehydrate them, we're taking out a substantial amount of water. And for a lot of people, when you remove the water, you increase the propensity for them to overeat on it because it's the water in the food when combined with the fiber in the food that creates the bulk, that creates the satiety. So I look at it as, you know, if somebody is very close to their weight loss goal, these things, which, you know, I call them minutia, majoring in minor things, these things could probably make a difference because the more food is processed, the worse it is for weight loss. The less it's processed, the better it is for weight loss. So of course, raw is better for weight loss than cooked, but I'm not telling people to eat all their food raw because things like potatoes, rice, and beans, they pretty much have to be cooked. I mean, I suppose you could argue they could be sprouted, but they taste a lot better raw, and you're not really increasing the caloric density that much, at least not with potatoes and sweet potatoes. So, you know, you want to eat as much raw produce as you can, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with cooking it, especially if it's going to make it taste delicious. So depending on where someone is in their journey to optimum health and weight loss, if putting things in an air fryer is going to make it so delicious that they're going to eat it, I'd rather have them do that than say, well, I can't eat steamed zucchini, or I can't eat a raw salad. So that's what it is. You know, I lost all my weight without an air fryer, without a dehydrator. These are just tools that are kind of fun that I use now because I travel a lot and I enjoy playing around with them. But here's the other thing, like I don't mind eating foods that's not cooked in an air fryer. I was without my air fryer for a couple weeks because the one that I got for my birthday was too small, so I sold it, and it took about 2 weeks waiting for the other one to come. And I remember the first few days were like, oh, where's the air fryer? Because we started to miss it, because it does, you know, you increase caloric density, or you make them more crunchy or interesting, and of course you like it more, you're going to eat more, but I'm still okay going back to plain food. You know, this whole topic about worrying about these things, you know, I have a cooking class on Sunday. If you live locally, you must please take my in-person cooking class. It's really extraordinary. It's sold out this week, but we have one June 4th and another one in July.
Where's locally?
Right here in my living room in Sherman Oaks, California. Like literally right here where I'm standing. And I remember I do a lot of recipes in the Instant Pot to teach people how to have healthy food made delicious very quickly. And so I was showing how we just throw everything in because cutting food up takes too much time. So I throw everything in. I was making sweet potato bisque, and so I was throwing in the sweet potatoes, and I threw in a whole red onion. And this gentleman in the class, and I kid you not, was almost 200 pounds overweight, diabetic, sent to me by his doctor for a nutritional intervention, and about to go on dialysis, says to me, he goes, well, you need to cut that onion. And I said, well, why do I need to cut the onion? Because I'm going to blend this soup at the end. He goes, well, you're not going to get all the nutrients out of the onion if you don't cut it and let it sit at room temperature for 10 minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, you're 200 pounds overweight, you're on insulin, and you're ready to go on dialysis, and what you're focusing on is that I didn't cut the onion. And I didn't say that, but I thought that, and I bring that up because most of the questions I get are in this realm of majoring in minor things, like, well, what about, we shouldn't use a microwave. Don't use a microwave. Don't use an air fryer. I don't care. Just eat the food. Or, well, we're not going to absorb the nutrients if we don't have nuts. This isn't why people are overweight, and this isn't why people are sick.
Just eat more food.
Just eat fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, and that's it. That's all you got to do. How you cook it is up to you. Don't add sugar, oil, salt, flour, alcohol, and chocolate, and nuts and seeds and avocado if you're trying to lose weight, but just eat the food. Don't worry about these little things. We focus so much on the cookware, and it drives me crazy. Let's focus on the real problem, that people aren't eating whole food in its whole food form without sugar, oil, flour, and salt. Okay, but air frying is fun until it's proven otherwise, and it'll be interesting when I go to True North if I can bring it. It's not that it's too big. I could bring it, but I just, do I want to bring it? Maybe easier to get another one. So we'll see what Dr. Goldhammer says.
Maybe sure Kathy Fisher has one.
I don't know if Kathy Fisher has one, but if you're watching, Kathy Fisher, will you buy an air fryer so that I can use it this Christmas?
I want to let our public know that next week or so we're going to have a microphone, so AJ will be louder. She won't be as muffled,
right.
And I won't be so loud either.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I
So
won't
we're
be
getting.
in
Yeah.
front of us.
Jeff. Thank you, Jeff Nelson, for the recommendation, and Dr. Luenda for the which one to buy. So we're going to actually. I'll be wearing a mic, so hopefully it'll be more equal. Okay.
Some people are having a little challenge with this still.
I will try to talk louder. Usually I'm talking too loud. All right. So Candace with a K, and the reason I mention that is because unless you're using a different name, I don't think you're an ultimate weight loss, because I would remember that unusual spelling. So she said that what I said last week about setting the bar really resonated with her. And in case you didn't see episode 27, what I said is that there are people who think that when we're trying to affect dietary and lifestyle change, that if we set the bar too high, some people won't even try. And I said, but the trouble with setting the bar too low is that you trip over the bar and you still fall on your face. So she said that resonated with her, but that her fear is not that if she tries that she will fail, but that if she fails, then she will feel embarrassed. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. And there's a couple of things. Well, first of all, you'll only feel embarrassed if somebody knows, right? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I remember that old Saturday Night Live skit with Rosanna Dana, where she'd have like toilet paper stuck to her shoe. And I would imagine that if we went to a restaurant and had a thing of toilet paper stuck to our shoe and somebody saw it or maybe giggled, we'd feel embarrassed. But if that happened to you in your home and nobody was there, would you feel embarrassed? And so what I say to you is, embarrassment is only if you feel that other people are judging you. And so don't tell anybody. I mean, I run into people and they say, oh, I've been on your ultimate weight loss program, for a year, and I lost 80 pounds. And I'm like, oh, great, what's your name? I don't see you. Oh, I'm not on the group. You don't have to participate in the group. You don't have to tell anybody. You just have to do the program. And then if you fail, you can fail quietly. You won't have to feel embarrassed. Now, on the other hand, for some people, telling everybody does help. And I can understand that if you've tried everything and up until now it fails, that you would have apprehension about trying something else. The thing is in my opinion, is if you don't try, you're still failing by default. And if you don't try, there's no chance that you can succeed. And I refer you to the movie Rocky. I don't know if you've seen it, one of the best movies of all time. Who won, Kenny, who won in Rocky? Who won the fight?
Rocky always wins.
No. Who won the fight in Rocky? Type it in if you know. See? We say that because in our hearts, Rocky was the winner. Rocky didn't win that fight. Apollo Creed did. But I didn't remember that movie that way either until Doug Lyle pointed it out to me. But in our hearts and in our minds, he was the winner. And why? Because he went the distance. And that's what we like, is what people to try, people to get up every time they're knocked down. You know, I always loved Willie Nelson. I actually got to meet him. He's such a mensch, such a gentleman. And I don't believe he became famous till he was like 44 years old. And I remember reading his autobiography, and he basically said success is just getting up one more time than you've been knocked down. If you haven't tried the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, try it. Because when people do it as designed instead of their own interpretation, it always works. Now, does that mean you will never relapse? No, it doesn't mean that. But I hate to think that you won't try just because you're going to feel embarrassed. Who's making you feel embarrassed? Don't tell them. Again, some people, it does work better if they get on Facebook and they tell everybody what they're doing, and this is for accountability. But if the only reason you're not going to try is because you're feeling embarrassed, I wouldn't do that. You know, I was taking a class called Cardio Bar, and it's a class, like it's a ballet bar, and it's like you do, you know, kind of like you move around and stuff like that.
Exercise.
It's exercise, yeah. And I remember one time I was taking it. It's mostly women that take it, because I'm not saying it's not a manly class, but it just seems that it's more ballet-like, and there's very few. I rarely see men in the class, even though the man that invented it, Richard, I can't pronounce his last name, Dugorlia or whatever, is a man, was a ballet dancer. And this particular class, there was a guy in there, and he was not very coordinated. And at the same class, there was a very, very obese woman taking the class, very, very large. And he had said something under his breath to the person he was with. He said something like, why bother? Like he was looking at her. And I said and I overheard it. The girl that he was talking about, the heavy girl, didn't hear it, but I heard it. And I said, excuse me, what did you say? And he goes, just look at her. Why even bother? And I got so mad. And I said, you better shut your mouth right now before I shut it permanently. I said, because at least she's trying. And it broke my heart, because you can no longer say something about someone's race or religion or sexual orientation or disability practically without being sued. But for some reason, it's still okay to comment on somebody's physical appearance if they're overweight. And it's okay to be less sensitive. And stand-up comedians can no longer joke about race, religion, orientation, or disability anymore. You saw what happened to Michael Richards. If you do, you get completely ostracized. The audience turns on you, and that's the end of your career. But for some reason, it's still okay to make fat jokes. And I don't think that's okay. I used to be a stand-up comedian. You can see my performance on The Tonight Show on YouTube. You can see one of my appearances at the Comedy Store. And if you're a stand-up comedian out there, it is not okay. It is never okay to make fun of or to comment on somebody's appearance, ever, ever, ever. And so, and if you do, you're an asshole. And I say that with all sincerity. The thing is I don't know who you are or what you look like now, but I know that from some of my female clients, or even male ones that are overweight, they feel embarrassed just based on that as well. So again, if I can't really help you with your embarrassment, I can help you getting the food right so that you can have the health and the body you deserve. But I don't really understand what embarrassment is. Really, that'd be a great question for Dr. Lyle. Should I interview him?
It's because you're you, but you got a lot of love for talking about that.
Because I don't feel embarrassed. See, here's the thing, because I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. You see, I think embarrassment I think it's related to self-esteem, because if I really don't care what people think, and that would be a good trait to cultivate, because I find that self-esteem and weight seem to be inversely proportional. The lower a person's self-esteem, often the higher their weight, and the more people-pleasing they are, the higher their weight. So I do respect what you're feeling about being embarrassed, but I would also like to encourage you to at least try.
AJ, you have chutzpah, they say.
Whatever. I got balls, you know?
Yeah, I know.
So, Candace, I printed out this poem that I'd like to read to you. It's a little bit deviation from my usual format. But when I was at the lowest point in my life, Reverend O.C. Smith, he was the reverend of a non-denominational church called City of Angels that I used to attend in the 90s. He was famous for a song called God Didn't Make Little Green Apples, and one of the most inspirational, lovely people I ever met. He read this poem, and it's written by, I believe, D.H. Groberg. And it's called The Race. And I encourage you to Google it and take a copy and print it out. So I'm going to read this poem. I'll go quickly. And this poem made me think of you, Candace. All right. Quit. Give up. you're beaten. They shout out and plead, there's too much against you now, this time you can't succeed. And as I start to hang my head in front of failure's face, my downward fall is broken by the memory of a race. And hope refills my weakened will as I recall that scene, for just the thought of that short race rejuvenates my being. A children's race, young boys, young men, oh, I remember well. Excitement, sure, but also fear, it wasn't hard to tell. They all lined up so full of hope, each thought to win that race, or tie for first, or if not that, at least take second place. Their fathers watched from off the side, each cheering for his son, and each boy hoped to show his dad that he would be the one. The whistle blew and off they went, young hearts and hopes of fire. To win, to be the hero there, was each young boy's desire. And one boy in particular, his dad was in the crowd, was running near the lead, and thought, my dad will be so proud. But as he speeded down the field across a shallow dip, the little boy who thought to win lost his step and slipped. Trying hard to catch himself, his hands flew out to brace, and mid the laughter of the crowd, he fell flat on his face. So down he fell, and with him hope he couldn't win it now. Embarrassed, sad, he only wished to disappear somehow. But as he fell, his dad stood up and showed his anxious face, which to the boy so clearly said, get up and win the race. He quickly rose, no damage done, behind a bit, that's all, and ran with all his might and mind to make up for his fall. So anxious to restore himself, to catch up and win, his mind went faster than his legs. He slipped and fell again. He wished that he had quit before, with only one disgrace. I'm hopeless as a runner now, I shouldn't try to race. But in the laughing crowd he searched and found his father's face, that steady look that said again, get up and win the race. So he jumped up to try again, 10 yards behind the last. If I'm going to gain these yards, he thought, I've got to run real fast. Exceeding everything he had, he regained 8 or 10, but trying hard to catch the lead, he slipped and fell again. Defeat. He lay there silently, a tear dropped from his eye. There's no sense running anymore, 3 strikes, I'm out. Why try? The will to rise had disappeared, all hope had fled away. So far behind, so error-prone, further all the way. I've lost, so what's the use, he thought, I'll live with my disgrace. But then he thought about his dad, who soon he'd have to face. Get up, an echo sounded low. Get up and take your place. You were not meant for failure here. Get up and win the race. With borrowed will, get up, it said. You haven't lost it all. For winning is not more than this, to rise each time you fall. And up he rose to run once more, but with a new commit. He resolved that win or lose, at least he wouldn't quit. So far behind the others now, the most he'd ever been, still he gave it all he had and ran as though to win. 3 times he'd fallen stumbling, 3 times he rose again. Too far behind to hope to win, he still ran to the end. They cheered the winning runner as he crossed the line first place. Head high, proud and happy, no falling, no disgrace. But when the fallen youngster had crossed the line last place, the crowd gave him the biggest cheer for finishing the race. And even though he came in last with head bowed low, unproud, you would have thought he won the race to listen to the crowd. And to his dad he sadly said, I didn't do so well. To me you won, his father said. You rose each time you fell. When things seem dark and hard and difficult to face, the memory of that little boy helps me in my race. For all of life is like that race with ups and downs and all you have to do to win is rise each time you fall. Quit, give up, you're beaten. They'll still shout in your face, but another voice within you says, get up and win the race. So Candace, get up and win the race.
Yes.
All right. Sorry that took so long, but it is a great poem, and I really recommend I keep it a smaller one with me. All right. So last question. We are rocking and rolling.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Someone asks here, how do you get your enabling husband involved to get on the same page?
You mean
enabling.
Or how are they enabling you? Like you're an alcoholic and they're giving you liquor? I mean, you know.
Well, just trying to get them on board with eating the right.
Yeah, it's hard because actually this next question is sort of in that realm.
You can always say what you said when you went out with Charles on the first date.
Yeah, but see, these people aren't me, unfortunately.
You're right.
And
You're
you know,
right.
it's hard because they're people pleasing. And you know, one of the things I would recommend first is go to Esteem, dynamicswithans.org, Dr. Lyle's website. Watch Getting Along Without Going Along. you have to know first why your husband is enabling you. Is it because he, like, for example, if you're overweight and you're trying to lose weight, is it because he's afraid that if you get thin and healthy, you'll leave him? Is it because he himself is a food addict? We need to know more information on why he's doing this behavior to figure out what the best, course of action is. Because there could be a lot of reasons. Sometimes it really is to sabotage the person. Sometimes it's because their food addiction is so strong that if the food is a problem for you and you say, honey, please, we can't have bread in the house anymore. Well, if they're a food addict, they're not going to want to get rid of that bread. It's a tough situation, and it's probably the toughest that my clients face. And we're going to talk about that actually in the next question, or I can talk about it now, is your environment is always going to be your number one predictor of your success. I'm not just the one that says that. Dr. Lyle says we have to work harder on our environment than we do ourselves. Dr. Kara Saunders says we have to master our environment. I've worked with over 2,000 people now, and when they relapse, in other words, when they eat something off-plan that usually causes them to go into a tailspin of self-deprecating depression and often gain a lot of their weight back, if not all, the first thing I say to them, first of all, they never reach out until after the relapse. So in other words, everybody wants to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. But the first thing I say to them when they say they ate X, Y, they ate off plan. On our group page, we don't get into details of the food because it can be triggering to somebody. So I say to them, well, where did you get it? And 999 times out of 1,000, the answer is it's still in their home. I had one client that at 11 o'clock at night drove to 7-Eleven to eat some Swedish fish, and she called me crying, and I said, why are you crying? You should be celebrating. You got in your car and got it. Because as long as you don't have it in your house, you're going to have to think about going out to get it, especially if it's nighttime. If you're tired, you got to think about getting out of your pajamas. You got to think about putting shoes, getting in the car, putting the key in the car. There's so many opportunities to create what's called a pause with your trying to indulge your addiction if it's not in your house. When it's in your house, it's too easy. And don't give me that crap about how, well, it's not my favorite flavor ice cream, so it doesn't call to me. Bullshit. If it's in the house, it's in the mouth. If it's in your house, it is in your mouth. It's not a question of if you will eat it, it's when. And even if it doesn't call to you right now, it still knows your number. So when your dog dies, when your boss yells at you, you're going to eat it. And there's just no exceptions to that rule. And until you are willing to clean up your environment, I don't really know how successful you're going to be, and at least not long term. And so that's why it is important getting family on board. And we teach some strategies in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program of things you can do to help navigate these difficult situations. Sometimes therapy is needed. Sometimes marriage counseling. Especially if they're downright sabotaging you. Kenny and I were, was it Kenny or Glenn Mercer was here earlier working on the book with me, and we were talking about Dr. Phil and the Oprah and Howard Lyman case, and I was saying, well, one of the things I like about Dr. Phil is one of the things he said is I would rather be healthy but alone than sick with someone else, and I completely agree with that. Sometimes, I'm not saying you divorce your husband, but many people, if not most people that suffer from food addictions, they suffer from also black and white thinking, all or none mentality. Either I'm going to eat really healthy, just eat a plain dry salad, which by the way won't work because without starch you're going to fail on this program, or I'm just going to binge. And there's no moderation at all, because moderation never works in general, but it specifically doesn't work for addictions. And the thing is people look at this like, well, either I have to do everything AJ says 100% or get divorced from my husband, when there are myriad other choices in between that. And that's one of the things we work on you with in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program. But I got to tell you, if something is an addictive food for you or a trigger food for you, you can't have it in your house. Not an ounce, not a morsel, not a crumb. And there are ways to deal with the spouse and the children, even if you have to buy them what is called a lock. They sell these food safes, and they're dark so that you can't see through them, so you can put them in the fridge, you can put them in cabinets, and a lot of our successful clients have done that in situations where they absolutely can't get the food out of the house. But that's what it takes, because the people that have been successful, the Shadas, the Heathers, there's not an ounce of that food in their house. They don't allow other people to bring it in. It's non-negotiable. Sugar, flour, and alcohol are non-negotiable. So it really depends. What are your goals and how bad you want to reach them?
I love someone said, just like you have his and her closets and his and her bathrooms, you might have his and her refrigerators.
There's nothing wrong with doing that. That is what some clients do. And by the way, you can get refrigerators and freezers with locks. I don't know if you saw the movie Love and Mercy about Brian Wilson. He had that, I don't know if he was a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but a 24-hour whatever. I always thought that'd be great if Doug Lyle would just hang around me for 24 hours. I would love it. I could ask him anything I wanted. But, you know, his cabinets were locked. His refrigerator was locked. And, you know, people understand with alcohol and drugs that they can't have it, like, ever in their house. But, you know, when it comes to food, because food addiction is not widely recognized, especially by the leaders in the plant-based community, you figure it's benign, but it really isn't benign, because people die from this disease all the time. And some people even have attempted suicide because they can't get a handle on their food addictions. It's a serious, serious disease. It's not your fault that you have it. It's a biogenetic disease, but it's your responsibility now that you know to do better. You know, I have an acquaintance that's an alcoholic, and he says it's not his fault because his parents are both alcoholics. And I said, you're right, it's not your fault that you have a gene that predisposes you to alcoholism. But knowing that, then it was your responsibility, knowing that, to never take the first drink to begin with. And it's the same thing with these foods, these highly addictive food-like substances, flour and sugar and alcohol, of course. As Kay Shepherd says, 1 bite is too many, 1,000 bites is never enough. You already know how the story ends, that when you have these foods in your house, it requires willpower not to eat, to not eat them. When they're not in your house, there's no willpower required. Willpower is only required when you have to make a decision. And if it's not in your house, you don't have to decide not to eat it. So it's very easy to not eat something that's not there. And I'm going to tell you that nobody has ever regretted not eating something off plan. But have they regretted eating something off plan? You bet. Because you talk about candidacy embarrassment. There's also shame and humiliation and self-loathing when people say they're going to do something and they don't do it. So I get it. But why make it hard for yourself? You know, why have these things in your environment? If you're in ultimate weight loss, I'll talk to your husband on the phone. And I'll probably talk to him anyway, even if you're not. I'd be happy to do that. But if somebody doesn't understand this, it's going to be much more difficult. And if they're a food addict themselves. And it really, you know, it depends on your relationship. Because I know that with my husband, who's not a food addict, when I explained to him how important this was to me, he loved me. He said, okay, no problem. I'll just eat chips at work, you know. So there's just many factors here, okay? Anything more on that before I get to the last question? All right, from Cara. She says, and this is similar a little bit, because she says that recently her husband volunteered her home as a rain backup for a meat barbecue. I haven't cooked meat in my kitchen for over a year, so I really struggle with this situation. How do you handle potlucks or other such situations where people might bring animal products to your house? Well, that ain't going to happen, because nobody is going to bring animal products to my house. Nobody's going to bring alcohol to my house, and nobody's going to bring processed food to my house. Why? Because I just don't allow it. And if they tried, I would say, I'm so sorry, but that can't enter. My home is my sanctuary, you know. I mean, you can, for $7.99, buy this little pen on Amazon and just say, no, 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 no. You know?
No.
Boundaries. You know, one of the things that really helped growing up an Orthodox Jew is that we kept kosher. And, oops, my necklace got all messed up. And so I understood there were rules. And, you know, people did not bring unkosher food into our house. It just wasn't acceptable. And as I became vegan at this age of 17, I didn't allow people to bring non-vegan food into my house. You know, I have asthma and I don't smoke. I don't let people smoke in my house. So why would you? If this is something that's important to you, either ethically, morally, spiritually, why would you then compromise your values, morals, and beliefs for somebody else? If you think it's acceptable and you want it in your house, that's another story. But see, that would never happen in my house because, well, for example, I've got both of these on my refrigerator, so it's pretty obvious. Vegan food only, vegan refrigerator. I've got a little sign here on my door that says, "Attention. This is a vegan household. Please respect this and refrain from soliciting or entering the premises with any animal products. Thank you." It's from Arizona Vegan Education Group, www.azveg.org. If you want, I might be able to send you a copy or maybe have it scanned. So the way I prevent it from happening is by letting people know who I am, unabashedly, unashamed, not embarrassed. This is who I am. You know, for example, if you were allergic to cats, would you allow people to bring cats into your house? Probably not. If you were a people pleaser, you might. So I draw the line. It's not coming in my house, and if they tried, they can either throw it in the trash and then come in, or just not come in. You know, who are you being? Who are you being? You know, in Ultimate Weight Loss Mastery, our small group coaching program, we talk about that all the time. Who are you being? And you know, if you let people walk all over you, they will. And Sometimes you just have to stand up for yourself. So I don't want that stuff in my house, and therefore it never gets in my mouth. Remember, environment, #1 predictor of your success. Don't forget, we finished a 2-week Eat Your Green challenge. People did phenomenal. Even if you're not in ultimate weight loss, remember to eat your greens. We're now doing 30-day no salt challenge. So, hey, my husband just drove up.
Wow.
Perfect timing. We might go to 3 o'clock next week. I know we keep saying that, but we'll see. Keep sending the questions.
We got one more question
Sure.
before we go. Tell us a little bit about when we're going to hear Dr. Columbus Baptiste on your
Guys,
talk.
my poor husband Charles actually works a real job all day and then tries to do my stuff at night. I don't understand the tech stuff, and we are so behind with our wonderful broadcast. We have so many people to send you. It's heartbreaking, so I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that, but he is amazing, and you will love him, and he's easy on the eyes as well. So go sign up for my webinar. It's Sunday night and Monday night. You get a choice of either night. You get the replay. If for some reason you miss it, you're going to really love these recipes. They'll help you stay on track. Anything else, Kenny?
That's it.
This means wrap it up. Thank you guys so much. Please send the questions to eatunprocessed.com. And I appreciate you watching episode 28 of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, and I really believe you can have the health and the body you so richly deserve. And I hope the Ultimate Weight Loss Program can help you get it. Thanks. Bye, guys.